How would you like to know everything that's ever happened to you from the beginning of time? This is Robert Manni, host of Guys TV, and this week my very special guest is a Akashic reader and ET contactee, Debbie Solaris. It all starts right here, right now on Guys TV. You can also catch me on KCAA Radio here in Southern California and my worldwide podcast, Guys Radio. Guys TV, Guys Radio, thanks for your support. Okay, Guys Radio. My favorite portion of the show is when I have my very special guests on. I've got a great one for you today. Her name is Debbie Solaris, and we're going to talk about Akashic Records and all kinds of intergalactic subjects. It's going to be a lot of fun. I discovered, actually, my wife discovered Debbie on Gaia, being interviewed by George Norrie, and she said, "You've got to have Debbie Solaris on your show." And here we are, because I always listen to my wife because she's the smartest person I know. So let me tell you a little bit about Debbie. She's an ET contactee, interdimensional traveler, galactic historian. After a fateful ET contact experience a few years ago, Debbie was awakened to her true star lineage and higher calling. Through her ancestral connection to the Akashic Records, and we'll get into what they are, she has been receiving downloads of galactic historical information and universal spiritual knowledge ever since. And she feels it's her mission on Earth to help awaken others to their divine selves and cosmic origins. Debbie was recently featured on the Beyond Belief show, as I mentioned, with George Norrie, showcasing her extraterrestrial contact experiences, how it led to her higher mission of helping people remember and reconnect with their cosmic star heritage. She's got a YouTube channel that features Akashic and intuitive readings and recordings featuring information on galactic history, extraterrestrial star races, along with real-life advice and direction for star seeds and light workers trying to navigate this incarnation experience we call planet Earth. Welcome to Guys Radio, Debbie Solaris. How you doing, Debbie?
Hi, thanks for having me on. It's great to connect with everybody today, and I appreciate your interest in me and my work.
Well, it's really fascinating, and I know you had a major shift in your life. So let's start at the beginning. What was your life like before your fateful ET contact that awakened you to your current path?
Well, actually, I had a very ordinary life. I wasn't really awakened at all. Wasn't really interested in ETs or anything, spiritual or metaphysical. Actually, my husband was the one that was more the paranormal enthusiast than I was. But I worked in environmental health with public health for quite a few years. And then before that, I was in the US Navy, worked as a hospital corpsman / preventive medicine tech, for about 6 years there. So I am a Navy veteran, and I just wasn't that interested. I would say I had a very ordinary life.
Okay. So what happened? Had you ever had an ET contact prior to this one, which was kind of like an inciting incident, with really changed everything for you? Was this the first one,
no,
or have you had it in the
I would
past?
say,
And were you a believer?
No, I wasn't even much of a believer. My husband would have UFO magazines around, and sometimes I would read them, but I was very skeptical of the things I was reading about. I mean, I was starting to get an open mind, but it wasn't really, I would say, anything that I thought was really relevant. But around 2012, I had my own extraterrestrial contact experience. Never thought in a million years I would ever be somebody that would have that kind of experience at all.
So what happened?
It was during a time of transition. This was in 2012. My husband and I were moving we're moving to Castle Rock, which is currently where we live now. And it was a difficult move. A lot of transition. There was a lot of transition in our country too during that time. Big elections and the Mayan calendar, all that. And then I was having some back issues. I had minor back surgery. Okay, and I ended up going to sleep one night, and this was like a few days after the surgery. I was at home, and I woke up and I was in a different reality. It was not anything. It wasn't a dream. It was just too crystal clear, too real for it to be a dream. And I knew at that point I was in a different dimension. I found myself on board an extraterrestrial starship, and I knew it was a starship. I wasn't afraid. I was just more curious, like what the heck is going on. And I ended up encountering 5 extraterrestrial beings that definitely didn't look human. And they were able to telepathically communicate with me. So I was asking them questions about, why was I there? Where was I at? And they answered me through telepathy and through this holographic, I guess, device that they had in this room that they had me in. It was kind of like an orientation room.
So were these beings, first of all, did you think when you woke up into this that like, oh, I'm dreaming, or am I in a separate reality?
Oh, I knew right away I was in a separate reality.
Okay, so these beings, Debbie, were they all of the same ET race? Were they grays? Were they reptilian? What were they?
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't know what they were at first. I've never seen extraterrestrials that looked like they did. They had a little bit of a gray alien appearance. They had bigger heads, 3 fingers, but their eyes didn't look gray alien. They had almond-shaped eyes, but they had irises and pupils.
Were you
And their
afraid?
skin tone looked different. They looked kind of bluish greenish. And they had huge auras, so it's really hard to even look at them directly. Their auras were really bright. They had a lot of colors in their aura. And so I asked these beings, who are you and where are you from? And they told me they were Arcturians from the star system of Arcturus in the constellation of Bodes. And they even showed me on a star map in the hologram where Arcturus was located. I had never really knew much about Arcturus before that.
Where is it located?
It's located in the constellation of Bodes, which is, I have a star map right on my wall here, the big blue thing over there. It's located in our
It's
galaxy.
it's our galaxy.
It's not that far from, let me see what constellation is closest to. It's closest to Virgo and Leo, I guess.
Okay.
So,
were you afraid, Debbie?
no, not at all. No. And I think the reason why I wasn't is because these beings were emanating such strong love energy. I mean, you just feel immediately comforted in their presence. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but, and there was something somewhat familiar, with about them, even though I couldn't quite pinpoint it at the time.
So when you had your meeting with them, do you know how long, do you have a sense how long the meeting took? And then what happened afterwards? Did you wake up in your bed? Were you given a mission? What happened? And how did your life shift from that point?
There was a lot that happened while I was there. It seemed like I was there for a long time. Like it seemed like I was there for days or months, because I was in that room for a long time. And I was wandering through the starship. They showed me different parts of the starship. They showed me this big atrium area. But I was actually just gone for, I guess, the duration of my sleep time, which was probably about 7 or 8 hours. So time seems to work differently in the higher realms.
When you were walking around, and if it seemed like months or whatever, did you eat or anything, or what? Did you notice anything that stood out when you were going through the ship?
There was certain rooms that stood out. There was one room that we walked into that they called the sleeping room, but I didn't see any beds or anything. That changed colors when I walked in there. So it changed to purple, and then it showed Asian landscapes. And I was asking the Arcturians, why is it showing me this? And they said, it's just things that you find relaxing. Mm-hmm. So purple's my favorite color. So I guess it knew purple was my favorite color. I don't know. But the other thing that stood out was there was a lot of other extraterrestrials on board that ship, mostly humanoid looking, but with variations. But I could tell they weren't humans from Earth. There was just too much variation. and I was surprised that a lot of them were humanoid, because I think in sci-fi movies you see all these kind of crazy looking beings,
Right.
and especially in Star Trek and
Right.
stuff, or Star Wars. But most of them look pretty humanoid. I mean, it was kind of like, like I said, variations, much taller, better looking, but definitely, not from Earth, but pretty much like us humans.
So what did they tell you in terms of having a mission, or why did they, I mean, I would think like, kind of like, why me? And then what did they tell you that the reason
Oh, I
was that they
definitely
chose
asked
you?
why me. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one
So,
of the first questions I asked, like, why,
so
why,
what,
why am I up here?
what was the takeaway, Debbie?
They told me that, and they did this through telepathy, but they told me that I was I was there because I was part of their star family. I had volunteered to be on Earth to work a mission, to start a mission, or to work my mission, but I had forgotten, and they were there to remind me. They also wanted to explain to me what was going on really on Earth, why Earth is so crazy the way it is, because I had a lot of questions about, and I was concerned, about, are we going to hell in a handbasket here on Earth? So they explained to me that everything was an illusion. And my job was to connect the 3D reality, to create a bridge between the 3D reality and the 5D reality. And that I was going to do it through information. And they explained to me that my Arcturian ancestors were mostly scientists. I think they said ambassadors, scientists, and historians, or something like that.
Okay.
So I thought that was kind of crazy. I was like, wow, I didn't know I had extraterrestrial family. That's kind of crazy.
Let me ask you this, Debbie. Yeah, to that point, how many people kind of on Earth are from Earth, and how many are from like other galaxies, if you will?
Right now, I think Dolores Cannon, I think showcased this during her time here on Earth. She wrote quite a few books. She
Mhm.
did a lot of work, groundbreaking work in hypnotherapy. Uh, right now, I would say there's probably more star seeds on Earth than there ever has been in prior human history, because we're here for the ascension cycle. So Earth is going through an ascension cycle from the third dimension to the fifth, and so we needed all of us star seeds to be here in order to push Earth into the fifth dimension and to do what we can to help expand consciousness.
Okay. My special guest on Guys Radio is Akashic record teacher and guide, really, Debbie Solaris. It's a fascinating conversation we're having here. So what's going on? What was your takeaway as to what's going on right now on Earth? You mentioned a move from the 3D to the 5D. For those people out there who may not be that familiar with what's it like in different dimensions, what does that mean?
Okay, that's a great question. So, so in each planet, there's various different dimensions, and it's mostly based on frequency. So as you raise your frequency, you shift into higher dimensions. And right now, in the third dimension, the frequency is fairly low. Uh,
Hence, right?
and yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true, uh, but we're evolving to a higher state of being. At least the planet is, and we're trying to get Earth people to be able to shift into this higher state of being, and shifting their own frequency to a higher state of being. And there's ways you can raise frequency. I mean, there's lots of ways. Very easy ways actually. Which is probably a whole other conversation.
Well,
But
let's just touch on it. So I would think like meditation,
oh
diet,
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
positive thoughts, prayer, whatever, right?
yeah, exactly, yeah. Also, staying away from mainstream TV. That'll raise your frequency immediately. Laughter. So sometimes when I feel down, I watch comedy shows, the
Mhm.
clean ones, and they make me laugh. So that raises frequency. I think just doing anything that makes you really feel good, that doesn't hurt other people. Being out in nature, eating healthy, wholesome food helps. Yoga. I mean, there's lots of
Mhm. Got it.
practices you can
Okay.
do. Yeah.
So are there forces then who are working against this evolution of mankind and that we're moving from the third to the fifth dimension? Is that going against the interests of certain entities, if you will, for lack of a better word, that may want to keep things just the way they are?
Oh, absolutely. There are dark forces here on Earth that have been here for thousands of years. Some of them came from some negative factions in Orion. Some of them are Draconian. Some are on, the negative Anunnaki. Not all Anunnaki is negative, but or they're descendants of Anunnaki, who want to keep things under control for the 1% of them.
Okay.
Okay. And they've been under control. Earth has been under their control for thousands of years. However, in this age of disclosure, more and more of their, I guess, nefarious activities are being shown, to everybody, and more people are becoming aware of it. So it's getting harder and harder for them to maintain that control right now.
Okay. Are you and are they optimistic that humanity and Earth will be able to ascend?
I'm very optimistic we'll be able to ascend.
Okay.
I see that just from my practice. Just in the last year in 2020, my practice just exploded. I mean, it was already good before, but I think just going through this whole COVID lockdown thing awakened a lot of people. And there's more and more people awakening all the time. So
Okay.
I'm very optimistic.
All right, let's talk about the Akashic Records because that's kind of a prime area that you work in. For a lot of
Yeah,
folks out there,
absolutely.
they may have heard the term, but they may not know what it is. I think most people might think, oh, Akashic Records kind of has every single thing that has ever been done or thought for everybody, and it's in some type of extraterrestrial library somewhere, higher dimensional library, and you can supposedly tap into that and learn about your records and help me out here.
Okay. No, I think you're on the right track. Actually, you're doing pretty good on your own. But it sounds like you did a little research there. But yeah, they're the energetic records of the universe, and they're not really in a physical place. I think a lot of people visualize this physical library. There is no such thing. It's just in kind of an energetic space of some sort, and we have access it through our minds. So I always say that everybody can access the Akashic records, and I still believe that, even though a lot of my clients would disagree with me. But I think everybody can access the records. So what it does is it pretty much energetically records every single thought, every single emotion, every single event that has happened, every single experience that's happened to every single type of being on various, I would say, star systems and planets, throughout the universe. Okay. And you can even access Akashic records of other universes, because I've done that a few times. So
How did
it's
you
pretty
first get,
interesting.
I'm sorry, how did you first realize that you could do this? And then the second part of that question is, you say anybody could do it. Is there any danger with people like kind of playing around in areas that they're not that experienced in?
I'll answer the first question first, and then we'll do the second one. Um, the first one, remind me, was how, excuse me, how do I get into this? How do I
Yes,
start?
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
got it. Okay. Um, Actually, I did, after my extraterrestrial contact experience, I didn't even realize, that I had these abilities. I was just trying to process what happened to me. It took me, I think, a couple of years to process basically what had happened. And I was at the time going through various different spiritual classes. So I was taking one spiritual class after another, just trying to understand the bigger picture that, was shown to me from the Arcturians. And throughout, I would say, my spiritual studies, I realized I was downloading all types of galactic information. It was happening spontaneously. Like I was getting memories of big galactic wars, things that had happened galactically, and I didn't quite understand what I was seeing. So I was doing a lot of research, trying to figure out, is this real? Am I seeing real stuff? What's going on? Am I going crazy? So I was explaining to one of my teachers, one of my spiritual teachers, my experiences or what was happening to me. And she says, "Well, it sounds like you're accessing the Akashic Records." And I said, "I don't even know what the Akashic Records are. Please explain to me, what this is." So I didn't even know what they were. And so she just happened to teach Akashic Records reading, and this was in my hometown in Castle Rock, Colorado. And so it was kind of like it was divine providence that I was supposed to, do this kind of work, I think, because I took the classes and I just discovered I had a natural affinity for accessing the records, and I could access beyond Earth records, which was really amazing.
Okay, so you say that anybody technically can kind of access them. Is that so? And if so, is there any danger in them and people kind of playing around in that area without having the experience of being training and knowing how to, if you open yourself up to just welcome any energy, you could get some lower entities.
Oh yeah, you definitely want to protect yourself. Yeah, what I usually tell newbies to the Akashic Records reading thing is that they always want to do the process. So even though it seems like I don't know if I want to go through the whole clearing thing, whatever. So if you're doing a reading for yourself, for instance, you want to make sure that you have protection around you. Okay. I mean, because when you're opening yourself up to those higher realms, you can get some negative energies coming in. And they can tell you things that aren't really real. And you're thinking you're accessing the records. So even if I do a reading for a client, I always do a little bit of a clearing before. And then we do a pathway prayer. It's a traditional one that I think Linda Howell came up with. So we'll do a traditional, pathway prayer. I'll use the person's name and birth date, and then I'll say the records are open. And then it's kind of like accessing Netflix. Okay, it's like you're getting into that person's particular file, and you're accessing their soul memories is basically what's happening. You really can't break the records, but the danger, I think, sometimes is that people can sometimes they don't understand what they're seeing, and
I understand. Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of like they don't really understand. But as far as breaking the records, I don't think you can break the records, but as far as them understanding what they're seeing, and then there's the danger of, maybe, if you're doing a reading for somebody else, telling somebody something that maybe they shouldn't know, because you'll see some stuff. You'll see some stuff in the record. You don't want to re-traumatize people.
So protection is paramount. I want to ask you I think is a really big question, and I know we're tight on time, but maybe if you can give us a very, very condensed version. How did we get where we are now on planet Earth? How did humanity start? You mentioned the Anunnaki, the Arcturians, and a lot of people out there listening or watching, they're not too familiar. So can you give us like the Cliff Notes
this will
version?
Be like the abridged version, probably.
Yes, yeah, so super abridged version.
It's your super abridged. Well, Earth was designed to be a living library. So it was designed to be like a storehouse of extraterrestrial genetics from at least 22 different star races. I guess they were just thinking, let's combine all these different genetics and see what happens. And they did the same thing for the human genome here on Earth. And so there was extraterrestrial beings that had been visiting Earth even before Atlantis and Lemuria. Okay, so there was colonies, from Arcturians, from Pleiadians, Syrians, Andromedans, so forth and so on. And I think initially Earth was supposed to be fifth dimensional, okay, because We do have records of one civilization on Earth, that's Lemuria, that was a fifth dimensional reality. Okay. But then when Lemuria was destroyed, Earth plunged into the third dimension. It was never meant to be a third dimensional reality. It was always meant to be fifth dimensional. And then you had negative factions that kind of took over. They took over things here. So Earth never really developed like it was supposed to, because these negative factions were holding things back. I don't know if that makes sense. But.
Yes. So from my watching you on other shows, you mentioned Lemuria and Atlantis. People are familiar with Atlantis, and those civilizations both kind of crumbled. They were separate, and they were actually, one was kind of, Lemuria was more of a peaceful, joyful place, and the other one was more kind of like what we're doing now, kind of go and technical and all of that. And that's kind of how we got here. So do your guides, do they visit you frequently? Do you continue to get downloads? I mean, what is your
I find out new things every day from the records, which is kind of exciting. I wouldn't say it happens every day, but I would say pretty often I'll get new information, and I have a running conversation with my guides all the time. So I'm always connected to them.
So do you consider this a gift?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know how I got blessed with this, but I'm just glad, I'm glad I'm able to serve humanity in this capacity.
Do you believe in God?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. All right, Guys Radio, my special guest, Debbie Solaris. I'm loving this conversation about her experience and Akashic Records. We had talked before the show, and Debbie's been kind enough to give me kind of a mini reading. So you folks out there, I'll expose myself as to where I came from and all of that. But Debbie's just going to give us a little sneak peek as to how she works and kind of where your guy came from and where he's going.
Okay, wonderful. Well, let's go ahead and get started with that. I already got your information, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. Let me just kind of adjust myself here so I can not drop anything while I'm doing this reading for you. But so anyway, let me explain how this is going to happen. So I'm going to do a divine heart triangle. So I'm going to be connecting my heart chakra with yours. We connect to source, keeps the vibration really high. Then we're going to do a little bit of a space clearing because, like I mentioned before, we want only the high vibrations around us. And then I do a pathway prayer. I'm going to use your name and birth date. I'll say the records are now open, and then we just kind of go into it. Okay. So
let's do it.
Let me go ahead and check in here. Robert, where are you located? I need
right now, San Diego, California.
San Diego, very cool. Okay. Now I know where to direct my energy.
Okay, Guys Radio, Debbie Solaris is tuning into me. She's going to do an Akashic Records reading for us.
Only the highest vibrations of love and light can be in this space, and all objects in this space, for the highest good of Robert Manni and myself for this reading today. All other energies must leave now. I call in the highest level of the divine that knows that love is the power and the truth from which we read, the highest level guides and angels of Robert Manni and myself to help us with this reading. Archangel Michael, hold this space for us, and so it is. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth, as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. O Holy Spirit of God, help me to know Robert Manning in the light of the Akashic Records, to see Robert Manning through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones have for Robert Manning.
So Debbie is connecting with Source. Here on Guys Radio. He's going to be doing a reading of me for you to enjoy and listen. I'll be listening and enjoying at the same time. Oh, here we go.
Okay, the records are now open. Okay. So Robert, I'm seeing that you're an ancient soul. I think, I kind of hate the term old soul because I think we're all old souls. I mean, we've all had various different experiences, either on planet Earth or off planet Earth. You are a star seed. Okay, I did pick that up. So what a star seed means is it means that you're somebody that's having a human experience right now, but your soul originated from a different star system, a different galaxy, or a different universe, just a different dimension. I did pick up Lyra origins initially, but you had a lot of incarnations in Sirius and Procyon. Okay. So kind of what I'm seeing in the records is that you were part of the Lyra Vega soul group. So initially, when Source was splitting itself off, it was splitting itself off into oversoul groups, which became soul family groups, and then we split into individual souls.
Okay.
And so you were part of that Lyra Vega soul group that came out of Galactic Center in our galaxy. So you did come from this galaxy. The Galactic Center is located between Scorpio and Sagittarius. These are constellations in our galaxy, really close to a major portal in the Scorpio constellation called Antares, which is also its biggest star. Okay, it's a stargate. So what I'm seeing is that you as a soul incarnated in the star system called Avion, okay, or the planet called Avion. Okay, this is in the Lyra system. So I'm going to put Lyra, Avion. Okay. And Avion was one of the bigger planets. I think Avalon was the biggest. Avion was the second biggest. Both Avalon and Avion were pretty advanced technologically speaking. They were starting to integrate more technology into their civilization because in the beginning of Lyran history, it was no technology. It was just people living in, paradise. And they were still living in paradise, don't get me wrong, but they were starting to integrate more technology because that's a natural evolution for all civilizations. And kind of what I'm seeing is that I think you've always worked in communications. Okay, you were somebody that I think you were you started off as an emissary for some of the regional councils in Avion, and then you were appointed to be a communications trainer or instructor for the new Lyran Starfleet, because you had a natural inclination for technology. Okay, you understood it, and you also understood, the proper methods of communication. Okay, but this wasn't broadcasting back then. It was inner star system communications. And so eventually, I think you did get assigned on board one of the Lyran ships, is what I'm seeing. You did routine trips between Lyra and some of the other star systems and planets, including Vega. Okay, Vega is also in the Lyra constellation. It's the biggest star. But they had different humans that lived in Vega. So the Lyran people were mostly kind of white-skinned, Caucasian-looking beings. The Vega people were more blue-skinned, a little bit, they looked kind of similar to Hindu gods, maybe. Very magnificent beings also. And so you were, I think, trying to, have this interconnection of communication between all the Lyran planets, which I think helped quite a few Lyrans survive the wars. If there wasn't that communication system going where the planets could warn each other of what was going on, I think the devastation would have been even worse during so Lyra, for the viewers of you that don't know about Lyra history, Lyra went through a devastating war that destroyed the Lyran system. The war was called the Lyra Draconian Wars because they were attacked by another star system called Draco, which was located next door. The Draconians, these were the classical reptilians that I think a lot of people know about. They weren't benevolent beings. They wanted to conquer the entire galaxy. And because Lyra was so close, they figured they would start with Lyra. Okay. And so they just ambushed the Lyran system. During this time, the communication that you and I think a few others managed to put in place, so there was this communication network. So you did some very important work. I mean, it was you and a group of people, not just you, but saved, I think, quite a few Lyran systems, or at least some Lyran survivors. The planet still got destroyed, but not everybody was wiped out. But even then, there was at least 50 million Lyrans that lost their lives, and there was complete planets that were devastated. You were one of the ones that was lucky to escape. Okay. I do see that your current wife was your wife in that past life. She was the first person you messaged. You told her to get the heck out of Dodge and meet you at the closest Lyran way station, which she did. And she tried to warn other people, but people were frightened. They were afraid. Some of them didn't want to leave their farms. I mean, Lyra was mostly an agricultural community, particularly Avion and Bila. So a lot of agriculture. And people didn't want to leave, and so they ended up getting destroyed, unfortunately. You were one of the lucky ones that escaped. Your ship headed to Cygnus for a while. The Lyran fleet knew that Cygnus was a no-fly zone for the reptilians. I don't know how they knew that, but Cygnus was the home of a huge black hole. It's a beautiful constellation, but it has a very menacing big black hole, which is called Cygnus X-1. It's an actual black hole. And the Draconians, because their ships were so big, didn't go near that black hole. So the Lyrans knew that, and they knew that, if they could maneuver their ships around the black hole, which they had much smaller ships, they could hide out in some of the outlier planets, which they did. And that's what you did. Okay. Eventually, because Cygnus wasn't really meant for habitation, so there is no, I would say, long-term Cygnus star race. It was a way station for a number of years. But the Lyran refugees and Lyran survivors knew they had to move on, and so you were part of the fleet that headed towards Sirius, so that's how you ended up in Sirius. Okay. Sirius is a binary star system in the constellation of Canis Major. Canis Major is also known as the big dog constellation. Sirius, for that reason, is known as the dog star or the blue star. It actually is the brightest star in our night sky. So you'll always see Sirius in the night sky. And the reason why it's so bright is because it's pretty close to Earth. It's only 8 light years away from Earth, and it's actually 2 stars. So makes it appear brighter. You ended up in Sirius A. Okay. I think for you, you and your family settled in Sirius. Okay. Sirius had very watery planets. So the composition of Sirius was very different from Avion. Okay, Avion was big continents, small seas. Sirius had massive oceans, small little pockets of land. So there was major technological projects that were started by Syrians because they knew that they had to find places for people to live because their population was exploding. They had many different types of beings that lived on Sirius, not just humans. And they also knew that they had to protect themselves from future Draconian attack. So Sirius went through a phase where they had their own inner conflicts for a while, but then the Assyrian High Council was developed and established. And so they came to unity consciousness. And then the big focus was technology. And so I'm seeing that you worked some technological projects for a while. It wasn't really your great love, but I think you love communication. I think you love
Yes.
sharing the truth. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. This is what, but you did the technical thing for a while. So you were a project manager for various technical projects, various ones. I think one was building shielding systems for the starships. I think that was one you were involved with. And then kind of what I'm seeing is that you did go through the Syrian mystery schools. So you got an understanding of spirituality. The Syrians were a very practical race of people. They were a blend of Lyra and Vega refugees. So they were a mixed race. And they had light blue skin as a result. But their civilization was very divine feminine oriented. It was very mother goddess consciousness oriented kind of a place. So a lot of Syrians were practical, because mothers are practical, I mean,
Okay.
got to take care of everybody.
So Debbie, was this another incarnation then, or is this all the same?
Yeah, this was another. So you finished out your life in Sirius, and then you had
Okay.
another incarnation.
Okay.
And so in each consequent incarnation you were having, you were becoming more and more developed as a soul.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes.
But,
Okay. Guys Radio, I'm with Debbie Solaris. We're doing an Akashic reading right here on the air. Go ahead, Deb.
okay, so we'll continue on. Thank you. So I think you ended up, you loved your studies in the Syrian mystery schools. And I think you took on as a mission that I need to share this information with as many people as possible. And so this is the kind of work that you did, not just in Sirius, but even in Procyon. Procyon is the biggest star system in Canis Minor, which is a neighbor of Sirius. And the Procyon people were very technical, but not very spiritual. So you went there to share information about spirituality with the Procyon people. They were also descendants of Lyran refugees. And then you did some work in Orion. I'm not seeing that you incarnated in Orion, but you did some projects there. Okay. And much of what you were doing, you kind of went back to the old communication thing where you were establishing communications between, some of the different star systems and planets in Orion. So you kind of went back to the original work that you were doing. And then here on planet Earth, your mission predominantly has always been to share spiritual information, to share not just spiritual, but just the truth, whether it be disclosure oriented or just factual information or kind of going beyond the veil of what we think we know to what is really out there. So that's been your mission.
Okay. And how about now?
That's what I'm saying. This is
Okay.
now. This is your mission now. This has been your mission ever since you've incarnated on Earth, has been to share the truth.
Okay.
So in various prior Earth incarnations, sometimes you were an ambassador, sometimes you were a writer, sometimes, I think you had quite a few incarnations as a writer actually, but sometimes you were a pastor, but not for the Catholic Church. You didn't like the Catholic Church. Okay. I'm seeing Reformation age in Germany, perhaps. And I also see Renaissance period. I'm seeing incarnations. I don't know if you're Italian in
Yes.
background. Okay.
Yes.
I figured from the last name,
Mhm.
but I'm seeing incarnations in Greece and Italy, discussing philosophy, discussing higher level knowledge with the people. There was various lifetimes when you were a teacher, okay, or either a professor or a teacher of some sort.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so you had, I would say, a very illustrious mission, here on planet Earth. And now you're using this platform to share information with all your listeners, not just, information like mine, but information in general, So you're just concerned about people knowing the truth, because there's so much deception here on this planet. There's a lot of things that have been hidden from humans for thousands of years. And your mission is to make sure humans know what's up, so I hope that helps. I don't know.
Very, very fascinating. And it's just, is there anything I need to know to be able to foster my mission on Earth now that the guides can share?
Okay, let me check in with your guides. You have a lot of Syrian guides, a lot of Ascended Master guides too. So let me check in. Kathumi is one of your major guides. You can check him out. Mm-hmm. He was the Ascended Master that he incarnated as Saint Francis of Assisi. So,
okay.
I don't know if you've ever been to Assisi, but it's an amazing place.
I've heard, yes.
Yeah, it's an amazing place in Italy. I've been there a couple of times, loved it. There's something spiritual about Assisi. But anyway, I digress. Let me move on. Let me check here with your guides. Okay, they're saying that they want you to integrate more controversial spiritual topics on your channel. Okay, not that you play it safe. I think you're kind of a rebel. Okay, you have a rebel energy, even though you're first wave. Okay, but they say they want you to get people that on your channel that are really controversial. Okay, they want to shake things up.
Okay,
and they say you're the kind of person that will shake things up.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you, Debbie. Thank you, guides. That was fascinating.
I'm going to do just a closing prayer, just to shut down
Please.
your record,
okay.
if that's okay.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
I would like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the lords of the Akashic Records for their point of view. I would like to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are not closed. Amen. The records are not closed. Amen. The records are not closed. Amen. Your energy goes with you. My energy stays with me. Now we're ready. Okay, so we're all set.
Well, thank you. Okay, Guys Radio, my special guest, Debbie Solaris, who did a deep dive of her reading. I thank you so much for your generosity for that. And just for the listeners out there, I mean, really interesting information there. And you can all do that with Debbie, and Debbie would love to work with you. So Debbie, let me give you a couple of minutes to tell everybody about where they can get in touch with you, how they can work with you, and how they can tap into what their Akashic records are and what they will learn from them to live their best lives now.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Sure.
I think the best way for folks to contact me is through my website. It's at debbiesolaris.com. So DEBBIESOLARIS.com. And right now, I'm not taking any new appointments, unfortunately, for readings, because I'm booked out till almost the middle of November. That's how popular my readings are. But I will be opening the calendar up again in October for November and December bookings. So if folks, really want to have a reading with me, I would suggest they go on my booking site and on my booking page on my website and sign up to be notified. And we'll let you know when the calendar is open. You want to get on really quick. You don't want to wait, because I think the last time we opened the calendar, it was completely booked this was like 4 months worth of bookings in about 18 minutes. It was crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets pretty insane. I do offer webinars. So we're going to be coming up with a new webinar in October that's going to be called Transforming Galactic Soul Contracts is going to be kind of a preliminary course for Galactic Akashic Records readings. We also have a webinar on our channel, on my website currently, that people can also access and take. Fantastic.
Debbie Solaris, last question for you. For all our listeners out there and people who've watched the YouTube, what can people do? Can everybody, I assume the answer is yes, and maybe you'll show us a little bit how, can they contact their guides? Can they get guidance that they're looking for? Obviously, you want to ask for protection, God's divine white light of protection, whatever. And can they tap in? What's the best way to kind of work with your guides and create a more ongoing relationship and communication?
Oh, absolutely. The best way to contact your guides is through meditation. That's what my guides told me, and I was fighting against it because I hate meditating. And then they sent me to Crestone, Colorado to stay with the Zen Buddhist monks for a while to learn to meditate. So I don't mess with my guides anymore. So when they tell me to do something, I do it. But yeah, meditating every day, even if it's just for 10 minutes, is going to really help connect you with the higher realms. And then keeping your vibration high too will help.
Got it. Okay. Debbie Solaris on Guys Radio. One of our most fascinating conversations, and the reading was really interesting and very helpful. So thank you so much, Debbie. I think the
Thank
listeners.
You for having me. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for your patience too. Take care.
All right. You enjoy the guests and content we bring you each and every week here on Guys Radio and TV, then please support us by subscribing to our channels. Thank you.